Yeah.
Welcome to the Embodied Woman podcast, a home for the authentic creative. I love your blouse so much, Amber. It's so
Thank
pretty. I
you.
kind of want to get the same one, but I know we can't wear
I'll
it on the
send
same day. But
I'll send you the link. It's actually a dress. Can
oh,
it's
is it?
Yeah, I don't know if you could see, but
Oh, it's so
it's like,
pretty.
yeah, it's I don't really have, you know, I don't really have a lot of stuff like this. And
So
so
pretty.
I just went on Amazon the other day and I was like, and it's green. It looks black in here, but it's green and green's my favorite color. So yeah. The thing I love about Amazon, I mean, I hate to like plug them, but
Yeah, plug
it's
Amazon. Come on.
it's just so easy.
Because they need help,
They
you
do not need
know?
help. I should go. Should we
You,
deleted that from
yeah,
our.
we delete.
It would be a good idea for me to go down to my local small business owned shops and purchase dresses. But yes, thank you anyway.
Next time.
Next time.
So we were just talking about this idea about getting your mojo back, and
Yes.
there's someone that I want to interview, and I'm just asking him, and we'll see if he's going to come onto the Embodied Man series and talk about getting your mojo back. And Amber and well, this other person, they're both dancers, and so you were starting to talk about dance, and so I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, I was just saying that title of like how to get your mojo back. I was saying for me, dancing is the quickest way for me to get my mojo back. And like yesterday, I was just feeling down. I was like feeling very raw and emotional, and I like felt like I wanted to cry. And I went into class, and as soon and I, it's like I have these amazing women in my class who are also just showing up and like sharing their beautiful energy. And as soon as I started moving and I put that music on, I was like, oh, there's my mojo. Oh, that's who I
There she
am. That's
is.
who I am, right?
She's
And
back.
and you said something about like not just sexually but creatively, and I was like, for me it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Because when my life force energy, when my sensuality, when my sexuality is activated, that is when I am feeling like the most powerful creator that I am.
Yes,
And when
it's
I'm not in
all
that, it's when I'm not.
connected.
It's all connected. Yeah.
I had something to say and I completely forgot what it was.
Oh,
I was gonna say we were talking about this with Julia Thornton
yes.
because she was talking about creativity and you were talking about being lit up and her paintings being sexual and she was saying they're creative and it depends who's viewing it and how what they're getting from it and you were like, well, it's both,
Yeah,
it's life force, and she was like, yes, it's life force.
that's right.
Yes.
Yeah. And not everybody sees it through that lens. I
Right.
happen to be, I think, I don't know if it's because I'm a dancer or if it's just who I am. I know that there's something
I
in
think it's
my
both of those
start.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that I am a very sensual being. And
Hmm.
uh, yeah,
Well, I had a chiropractor slash energy worker once who was very skilled and like wise and professional for years and did so many different modalities and practices. And he was, and I've read this plenty of places where he was like, well, being spiritually connected and whole and balanced in your energy centers is the same thing as being turned on.
mm-hmm. Right.
It's the same.
Yeah, full of life, fully alive, turned on, tuned in.
Tapped in.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, so let me pull up.
Yes, I love the word wayshower, and that's
Ooh,
our get
yeah.
our guest talks a lot about that, and I love that word. I've actually been called that uh
Me too.
I took it as a huge compliment.
Compliment.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Okay. It doesn't, it's so funny. Joya's name isn't even, did I like accidentally delete her name? That's so funny. Um, so wait, hold on. So Joya, what's her last name?
Joya,
Wait,
um
it's right.
I'm looking in my um hmm
Okay, wait, hold on. Wait for it. So,
Wait
so,
for
so
it.
I asked her how to pronounce it. So
Oh,
it's Sosnowski. Sosnowski.
okay.
It's either Sosnowski or Sosnowski.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll have
S-O-S.
her, we'll
N-O-W.
have her
But
make sure that we know what we're saying.
the word now is in the
Ah,
middle of her name, of her last name, which I think is super cool. Like
yeah.
S-O-S, S-O-S, now ski.
Uh-huh. SOS. I'm here now
Yeah.
to respond to your SOS,
Yeah.
to help you and guide you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw you. I saw you with your SOS, and I'm here now to help you.
Yes.
You Wayshower. I'm here now, responding to your SOS.
I can tell you're a mom that helps your daughter with her quiz. Like, you have a quiz tomorrow. Here's how we're gonna remember it, honey.
Right. That is so true.
Right?
Everything is a song. Everything is like a rhyme or a song. Because how the heck else are you going to remember the stuff that they have to remember? I
Right.
don't remember it. I do
Well,
not remember what she needs to remember right now in fifth grade.
my son says, why do he questions all of it? He's like, well,
Yeah.
why? Why do I need to learn this? Why? When am I going to use this? And I'm like, well, you're learning to learn.
Right.
You're learning to learn. It's not about what you're learning so much as, yes, okay, but you're not going to remember a lot of it, but you're
Right.
learning how to learn. You're training your muscle. Now, the regurgitation, I think is, I hope that certain school systems I know are starting to step away from that a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I'm honest with my daughter. You know what I tell her? I tell her, I agree with you, honey. I think if the entire way that the school systems could like the way that they operate could change,
mhm.
I'm all for it. Because
Yeah.
I can't sit still for 8 hours in a freaking desk learning about stuff that I don't care about.
Right.
So I get it. I get
Yes.
it. But
Yeah.
unless I want to take that on, which I've already taken on other things that I care.
Well, it's expensive to send someone to a school that's like a Waldorf school, for example.
Right.
Like it's a whole dedication. But
Right.
we can take that on board ourselves with our children to teach them how to think for themselves,
Right.
which we weren't really taught.
Exactly. That's very true. And we can validate them. Like, just because that's the way it's done, or just because an adult says so, doesn't necessarily mean that's the case.
Yeah, that's pretty revolutionary. Well, I mean, my interview with my mom, she was talking about from a young age starting to question and the process of that. And she kind of spent her whole life questioning, but then also going into like commune life where it was like a cult and then having to like be saved from that. So anyway, we're getting off topic. Joya, let's get back to Joya because it's 9 o'clock. She's probably going to pop on any second. So here she is. Yay! That was like the absolute most perfect divine. I said,
Love that
your
picture
name.
of her. Look at that picture. I love that. It's so
Those are
gorgeous.
gorgeous sound bowls. Ah!
Oh, good morning.
How are you?
Oh my
Wonderful.
gosh.
How are you?
I'm fabulous. Let me get my microphone correct.
Okay, while you're doing that, I'm going to read your bio. So, in the luminous realm of healing and spiritual awakening, how do I say your last name?
Sosnowski, just how it's spelled.
Okay. Okay, Sosnowski.
It was better before. We heard you better before you just did whatever.
Let me turn.
That's
my-
good. Yes, yes,
Yay.
yes.
Yay.
So Joya Sosnowski reemerges as a beacon of light, guiding souls on their journey to self-discovery and empowerment. As a dedicated mindfulness trainer, spiritual psychology coach, and sound healer, she weaves a tapestry of transformative practices centered around the profound healing powers of sound, art, voice, and drumming. As an author and the visionary founder of Vibologie, She extends her knowledge and heart-centered approach beyond personal sessions to a wider community of seekers. Here, the fusion of mindfulness, spiritual psychology, and sound creates a symphony of healing and personal growth. Joya is also passionately devoted to guiding the Wayshowers, a collective of healers who walk the path of light. She imparts to them the ancient and modern wisdom of sound, voice, and drum healing. These tools and techniques, steeped in both tradition and innovation, enable the Wayshowers to guide their clients towards harmony and wholeness. She takes women on sacred sound journeys, singing and drumming at the world's sacred sites, as well as facilitates healing and transformative retreat experiences. Her journey is not just a profession, but a calling to awaken. In every endeavor, Joya embodies the essence of a Magdalene Mystic, nurturing, wise, and eternally connected to the deep flowing currents of spiritual energy. And you can find her at Vibologie.com. And then on Instagram, is it at Vibologie? Yeah. Yes. And I've been following you on Facebook for years.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. And I hardly ever go on Facebook anymore. I'm on
Well,
Instagram
well,
most of the time.
well, now it's carried on to Instagram. Now I follow you on Instagram.
Yay. So
And
you've seen the growth and trajectory.
well, I was on your live the other day and you were about to give a big speech, right? And how did it go?
It went super well. Yeah, it was really good.
I'm
Really,
sure.
really good. Oh my gosh. And then our it was for eWomen Network, and the speaker network person actually came from Dallas to hear me speak. I was like, oh my gosh. And she gave me the best feedback. I was like, can I have feedback from you? And she's like, yes. And she gave me the best constructive criticism. I was like, oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you. You just helped me figure out how to make my talks way better. Yeah, it was super.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I was so grateful. Oh my gosh.
Oh
Well,
my
I'm sure
gosh.
those women were, and men, if they were there, were so served by your energy and your
Oh, thank
gifts.
you. Thank you. Yeah, I teach by, I give a talk, but then there's so much information. Now we're on information overload in the world, right? Where it's like, especially with AI, it's like I don't even use Google anymore. I just ask Chat GPT everything. So I'm like, hey, what about this? And so I like to, when I'm doing a talk, I like to give experiences where I'm like, okay, here's the dinner, here's what we're having. I'm turning that off. Thank you for going off right now. And like, here's what it's all about. Now taste it. And so I just give an experience so everybody can actually experience what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I love
Yes.
that.
Super important.
When we were listening to your bio, oh my God, the thought of like drumming and singing in collective at sacred sites, that must be so incredible. Like, because I'm already there, but can you just like elaborate a little bit more? What is that experience? How did you come to create that experience?
Well, I'm creating it even more now. So it started by when I went on a journey with a woman, and I, as doing sound and working in sound, when we got there, I was like, I want to sing here. This is an ancient place where thousands of people have sang for eons. And I just started singing this song, and then they all started singing with me. And then the lady who was leading our tour said, you should consider leading women on tours like this. That was pretty phenomenal. So I just started doing it.
Wow.
Got to experience it in the King's Chamber in Egypt, which was utterly
Whoa.
yeah, utterly mind blowing. Absolutely.
We want to hear about that.
Let's
Okay, we gotta go back.
go
Okay,
back.
let's go back.
How does a little girl growing up, what happened to have you end up in the King's Chamber singing, like, and drumming? Like, there's
Oh
a
my
story.
gosh.
There's a story there. Was there like a major event in your life, or
Oh
how
boy.
can you share that story that can help paint the picture of the woman that you are today?
Oh my gosh. Okay, let me turn off this heater because it's going to keep
Oh,
going off and on. And I don't know if you guys can hear it, but
I
you'll
can't hear
notice
it.
it. You'll hear it every time it shuts off and on. It's really
Oh, okay.
Well, I'm gonna guess that Joya has had these gifts
Yeah.
since before her time, and I'm gonna guess that she's been around a few times like you're an old soul.
very old soul. Absolutely.
The
Absolutely. And
Wayshower.
And I joke because actually, when I give talks on overcoming trauma, so going back to childhood, I had an unbelievably traumatic childhood that I'm actually a 9 on the ACEs. So statistically, I should definitely not be who I am. But I know that my soul signed up for that, that it was like, okay, this is going to teach me everything I need to know about resilience and compassion and empathy and patience and kindness and faith and just all of the things that I've garnered from that experience, right? And
Yep.
so I joke and I say, I'm like, when my soul made this agreement and I was sitting with the council, I was like, all right, I'll do it, but I need to be smart and there better be music.
That's how I feel. I'm like, you gotta let me dance. I gotta be able to dance. Okay. If I'm gonna do that shit, I'm gonna agree to that. There's gotta be dancing involved.
Like, if I'm in a family of people who hate music, this is not gonna work.
Oh, it's so comforting because I do believe that, you know, there was this soul contract, this agreement, and the soul curriculum. I do believe that. But I will tell you, there are times when that belief is tested. And so it's so nice to hear other women who also believe that can share that and say, yes, these are the gifts from all of the challenges that I've been through. And this is why I believe that I had to experience this so that I could learn how to be resilient and all the things that you just said. So beautiful. Thank you. Go on.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, and that's not to minimize the experiences when you're in them, right? When you're in it,
Right.
it's not easy. And so to lead to the music, I did grow up in a musical family. My parents were hippie musicians, and I'm literally an original festivarian child of festivals in the 70s and 80s growing up, that it was literally like, here's your blanket. And I'm so freaking grateful for that, because it gave me total freedom to just run and play. Like, even still, like if you go to festivals or you go to events where kids aren't on their phones, they still do what we did when we were kids, which is they tribe up, right? They go find their people, and there's like a natural
Yeah.
leader. If you watch them, there's like these natural leaders that come and the other people who assist and help. And so I really grew up with this kind of freedom of being able to figure a lot of life out on my own, because I also somehow had the gift of um, not letting other people's projections, who didn't know what they were doing, aka my mom, who is very abusive, because it's generational, right? And so I'm like,
Mhm.
but somehow I knew not to let that sink into the beliefs of who I am. And I always had this little rebellious little attitude of, oh yeah, you can't tell me who I am. Like, I've just always have
Wow.
had that kind of energy. And so
That individuation was like clear for you. That
so
was
clear for me.
centered. Yeah.
So clear for me. And and it wasn't until recently I realized, I'm like, oh, this is interesting with my mom and our relationship, that as horrible as she was to me as a child, when I told her that I had been being sexually abused, she stood up for me and she prosecuted. And me and my aunt, the only other person who would tell the truth, everybody else went on a witness stand saying I was a liar.
Mm.
But I'm at the age of 11, I'm like, oh my God, I had this courage to like speak up, and still to go stand up and sit on a stand in court and have my crap together and tell the truth, right? And just like, I've had this ability in me to use my voice my whole life.
Joya, I gotta ask you because this is twice pinged in me.
Okay.
The witch wound. I mean, were you like burned at the stake at any point? Like, is that,
100%.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. And actually, when I've had past life regressions, there's been burning at the stake. And then another one, I was a monk, so I was a man, and I was sitting in a cave, and I was a transcriber, and I was transcribing sacred documents. And I was like, had this sense of panic and being in a hurry because I knew people were coming to get me. And I was
Oh,
trying to share and get my wisdom out before and hide it before they got there to kill me, because I was like, they were on their way. And I was so young, was what the weird thing was. So yes, those past life wounds are for sure there. Yeah.
and so you were like, this lifetime, I'm gonna speak.
Yeah, I'm speaking up, and that we can now, right? So even if nothing came of it, even if my mom went the other way and was like, called me a liar and did all those other things that parents do to their children,
Mhm.
I still would have at least have spoken up. And
Yeah.
I've always have had that. But um I spent
That
my
is so
years.
important that is so important that you're a leader in that way. That is so, 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 so vital.
Yeah, and I think
Thank
that's
you.
why I'm such an advocate of throat chakra activation. And you do that by learning to use your voice and learning to simply extend your vowels. Like it's not hard to sing. And but that breaks up stuck stuff that's in your body. Yeah. Whew.
Wow. Wow. I
So
have
the
an 11-year-old daughter and
Mm.
she's pretty fire. And I'm like, please God, keep this. Let
Oh,
her never lose her voice or abandon, because I did not have the whatever you had. Like I did allow the projections to uh be seeped into my consciousness and belief system about who I was. And that's my journey, right? So it's taken me all these years to kind of have a better understanding of how that happened. But I see my daughter, and part of my mission is uh inspired by wanting her to like hold on to that sovereignty and that individuality, and to never give away her puppet strings like I did. Yeah.
oh my gosh, you're such a beautiful mother, and she's so lucky to have you. So
Thank
lucky.
you.
I was watching something the other day, and I wish I could remember what it was because the woman, today she's a musician and a healer along the same lines, but she said, I grew up in a family who encouraged us. Oh, you know what it was? She wasn't a musician. She's a musician, not a healer. It was the Roseanne Cash documentary. And she said, I
Oh,
grew up in a family where we were all encouraged to be our individual self. And I just was like, how amazing would that be to grow up in a family where you're encouraged to be your ultimate individual self?
yeah.
Yeah. So,
yes.
Amber, that's beautiful that you're doing that for your daughter. So, wow. I love that. She's
Thank
lucky.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Well, let's get back to your story. So you have this fierce essence that you've had your entire life that has carried you into this. Was there a specific incident or catalyst that put you on the path that you're on today to become the healer and the teacher and the guide that you are?
Wow, there's been a lot of catalysts too. You know how there's a saying that life doesn't make sense while you're living it, but then it makes sense when you look back. And it
Mhm.
really feels like that everything's just been a perfect thread, a perfect stepping stone, a weaving together to get me to where I am today. And I would say, when I was a little girl, just with all this trauma and stuff going on, I still had a very mystical connection. And I used to talk to and play with Mary Magdalene in the woods. So where we lived in the mountains and had a lot of nature and freedom, my other saving grace, right? That I could just disappear into the wilderness. And she would just talk to me and tell me things. And my two favorite things to do when I was a little girl was pretend I was a detective and pretend I was a priest. So it was like super. So, and then I wind up doing this, right? Like I'm like, oh, I'm like a soul detective now. Hold on, there's a loud
Yes.
truck. Just a moment.
I love that because I teach Akashic and we talk about being a detective. Like with
Oh,
your client, let's do this together. We're gonna figure this out, the puzzle pieces, but it doesn't all come together sometimes until the very last moment.
exactly. But so that was a catalyst, just these mystical connections, visitations from people who have passed over. I've had, and with messages for somebody who's still living, still happens occasionally. But it happened a lot when I was little. Um, but I would say the big catalyst that jolted and shifted and moved my life is there's two. One was surviving a suicide attempt when I was 21. So all of those experiences from childhood and spending my teenage years in and out of group homes and being a teenage runaway and sleeping on couches and again being divinely protected, right? I'm like looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was never sex trafficked. I never got addicted to drugs. And I don't know how that happened. But by the grace of God go I, is what I always say, seriously. But I survived a suicide attempt. And in that experience, I heard music made of light. I still remember it very vividly. And I've heard other people who've had near death experiences, a couple of them describe hearing that music, hearing the music made of light. And I'm like, I've
Wow.
heard the music. I know what that is. And I can still really remember it vividly to this day. Can't hear it on earth because um, it's too dense here. It's too slow. The vibration is too slow for that music. The closest thing is definitely crystal bowls. And when you start getting all of the overtones that start taking over, it kind of sounds very close to that frequency. The second catalyst was having a baby, having children of my own. And wow, you can't, up until that point, from the time I survived my suicide attempt was when I was 21 until I had my daughter when I was 32, I think I was when I had her. Do you hear these guys outside?
No.
Oh, good. This microphone must drown things out. That makes me happy.
Yeah. You were
Okay, good.
32.
I
And so
was
like just over a decade later.
Yeah, it's about a decade later, and I
Yeah.
had my daughter. But up until that point, I was very numb. I didn't have any emotions. I was completely shut down, and I was very analytical and logical. And so I was trying to heal my trauma and
Mhm.
trying to explain the mystical experiences through logic. And so I went
Mm.
through every mindset thing you could possibly imagine, and I read every book you could possibly imagine, trying to heal myself on the level of my thinking, right?
Mhm.
Then I had my daughter and my heart burst open and I fell in love with her. Well, of course, when you open feelings of love, it's not just one feeling that gets opened, it's all kinds of feelings. And boy, let me tell you, enter the judgy critic who was awful of my parenting and my fear. And I parented ruled by fear that I didn't want to be like my mom. I didn't want to be like my grandmother. And so fear was the driving motivation for how I parented. Yeah,
Mhm.
really bizarre looking back that I'm like, oh my gosh. And so what did I create? What did I create in parenting like that,
More
right?
fear. Yeah. Well, I
More
think
fear.
that's so common.
Yes. Oh my gosh. More fear, more judgment. And it led to, I started to have a stress induced nervous breakdown because I was just like, I'm not doing it right. And I was
Yes.
overcompensating. I was attachment parenting. I
Yeah.
breastfed both of my kids until they were 3 years old each. I never took a break. I never left.
Mm.
It was like this extreme parenting where I was just like devoting my whole self to my children. And of course, what happened was that fear that I'm not doing it good enough began to manifest in me because I wasn't taking care of me. And I definitely wasn't acknowledging the underlying issue that was
Mm.
causing the fear and all of those feelings in the first place.
Mm.
So, yeah, that sent me on my journey of doing the deeper work for sure.
When you were talking about that, I was just having such compassion
Yes.
for who you were and what you were trying to heal from your past, right? Like I think that that's so common, and I have discovered that in my life that my mom, bless her sweetheart, did not have the childhood that she wanted. And so when I came into the world, it's like, I'm going to give this child everything I didn't have and pour everything into her. And then of course, that has its own
Shadow. Yeah.
right. Like, and so, but I have such deep compassion and appreciation for my mom because I know that everything she did was out of love. And same with you. It's like everything that you did, right, was coming from a place of I want to love these children. I want these children to feel safe because I didn't feel safe.
Mm.
I want them to feel prioritized because I
Right.
didn't feel prioritized. And it's like, so it's
We're trying to balance
beautiful. We're
it.
trying,
We're
we're
trying
all
our
trying our
best.
best.
We're
We're
trying our
always
best.
trying our best. We're always
Yeah.
doing the best we can with the tools that we have at the moment we're in. Yeah.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah, I do
Yeah.
not go back and look back and judge myself. And recently, when I went to take myself on the to the Mary Magdalene cave on the trek I went on, this pilgrimage I just went on this past October, I stumbled into it was just absolutely crazy, you guys, how spirit works and how I've learned to trust and listen and follow the sign symbols and synchronicities and my own intuition. And my friend and I stopped and had lunch, and I noticed right across from us, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're sitting across from door 55, and it had a 55 on it. And so we're like, what is that? So we got up and walked over there, and it was a convent. And so it said convent of, it was in French, of course, and I used Google Translate to find out what it was. And the church was just like a couple doors up. So we went over to the church. It's a whole church devoted to the divine feminine, you guys, the whole thing. Oh my gosh. So, and
Wow.
in there, what was really bizarre was they had these four statues. One was Mary Magdalene, of course. Another one was Saint Bernadette. I was born at Saint Bernadette's Hospital in California.
Okay.
Okay.
The
I
third
love
statue,
it.
the third statue was Saint Therese, and that's my mom's middle name.
Okay.
Okay.
And I just burst into tears with this, because this question, and sometimes this voice drops in with these questions that will shift my perspective. And the question was, what if your mom took on her life, who she is, in order to be your teacher so you could do what you're doing now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And it just was flooded with this, like, the mystery is just so beyond our level of comprehension. And I'm like, I'm willing to entertain that. And then that burst my heart open with just love for my mom, which I already do love my mom, and I already have compassion for my mom, but we're not close. We're not
Mhm.
close. So it was like this different feeling that landed in my heart. Yeah.
That's
Carrie,
beautiful.
that's the story or the post that you shared with me this morning, the Mark Groves post about how the people in our lives come in to teach us, the ones who love us, who hurt us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what you just
They're
said.
our teachers. Yeah. The
And I'm
people that
counting
hurt
that
us.
as confirmation. It's confirmation.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. I
So
love that.
so what was the initiation of the sound bowls?
Well, I've gone to sound baths. This is what's interesting. I've gone to sound baths and sound meditations for many years, and I never um, thought about doing it myself, right? It never even crossed my mind. And then one day I went to a sound bath, and I was invited to go to this sound bath, and it was with a person that I don't particularly care for, who was doing the sound bathing, and she just was getting into it. So I agreed to go with my friend, and I was laying there, and I felt myself getting really angry during the sound bath. Like, I was getting mad. I was feeling this rage, and I'm like, this is not a normal response at a sound bath. And so I just asked myself, I'm like, from my years of mindfulness training, rather than just reacting to that feeling, I went into it. I'm like, what are you wanting me to know? What are you teaching me? What is this here for? And it was like this knowing that just came on over me. It was like, because you want to be doing this. And then I was like, oh, I do. I totally want to look into doing this. This is a powerful way to impact people through music and sound. Um, and I didn't endure the rest of the sound bath because I didn't enjoy it. I got up and left. And then that sent me on my journey to really look into studying sound, understanding that we're energetic and vibrational beings, and it's not something to mess around with. It's really not. And there's just so much into it. Sound is a whole universe that I can never get tired of studying.
I love how you've talked about fear being a motivating tool, and then this rage and jealousy being a motivating tool. Not a negative thing. These are things that have led you to your path of freedom.
Yes. Oh,
my
yeah.
my daughter yesterday, I just want to tell this quick story because it makes me think of this. And this, for our listeners, these are the ways that you can look at life, right? You could look at life going to that experience going, well, that was a waste of my time. What a jerk. I hated it. I spent this time. I spent this money. Or you could go, okay, what is this here for? How is this here for me? Right. And I had this experience yesterday where my car died. I had to buy a new battery. My refrigerator died. I had to buy a new refrigerator, like all this stuff that I'm going through. Right. And so my daughter, who's 11, she's like, God, that sucks. And, and I was like, yeah, but you know what, Dawson? So I said, I think this is happening for me because, and she goes, you always think everything is a sign. And I was like, yes, I do. Because what's the alternative? I'm either going to be like pissed off, right? That life is happening to me and all these difficult things are happening, or I can shift it and go, ooh, okay, like what is this preparing me for? How is this happening for me? So I love that. And that's exactly what happened to you. It catapulted you into becoming this amazing sound healer.
It did.
Yes.
Yeah, it did. And stepping into something that's been there my whole life. It's like that. And what I find really fascinating too, Amber and Siri, is that when I was having my suicide attempt, and I really did want to check out of the planet, I was done being here. And as I was dying, I said, God, if you have a purpose for my life, then you have to tell me, because I just don't want to be here. And if there's no purpose, I don't, just take me, I'm done. And I heard this booming, thundering voice that came from inside of my body, and it said, go to sleep. And I passed out. So I don't have any recollection of what happened after that moment.
Wow.
But I do remember the music, right? And so, but it took me literally, let's see, I was 21. I started doing sound healing. I think I was 44. So it took me 22 years, 23 years for me to finally go, duh, the music was the purpose. Like they showed me. I just didn't get it. I thought the music was to let me know that there's something beyond this realm, which I already knew. I didn't realize that the music is the purpose. Like spirit's that literal. We just are the ones who aren't seeing the signs or paying attention, right? It's literally that literal.
Yes.
Wow.
And then drumming, I saw you doing on Instagram Live, and you're so into it and like it's your thing, right?
You know what surprises me about that is I've always been resistant to drumming. I've been invited to billions of drum circles over the course of my lifetime, especially growing up the way I did, right? I've always been around music and I've just never wanted to do it. I've always been like, no, that's just a bunch of hippies playing drums and people who are just high and drunk and playing on their hair and their dirty, sweaty bodies. I'm like, no, I'm no thank you. Like that was my vision of a drum circle, right? So
That's so funny.
And fast forward a couple of years ago, I think it's been 2.5 years now since I discovered Geeta Ben David became my voice teacher, my singing teacher, sounding teacher. And I discovered her through Lars Mool, who is her ex-husband, but he's an Aramaic spiritual teacher. And so he mentioned Geeta and I started studying with her. So I started using my voice. Then when I was doing my voice, I just thought one day, this would be really fun to do with a drum. And I was like, oh, that's a weird thought. But then I went out and bought a drum. And let me tell you, it has been, and why I'm so passionate about it and share it. Number one, your voice is free. You have it with you everywhere you go. It is your healing instrument. It is your healing instrument, and it is your instrument of creativity. Your throat is your creative portal, right? So learning to use that. Wipe my nose. And drumming is ancient, and women used to be the drummers and calling in the spirits, and it's such a sacred practice. It's like every time I hold a drum, I picture it as being a net that is a song catcher. Like every song in the quantum field is flowing through my drum right now. That's what I always feel like when I'm holding it. Every song that ever was, every song that ever will be, every song I can't hear is running through my drum. And holding that sacredness of a drum and using your own voice, it literally repatterns you at a cellular level. It rewires your mind. It rewires everything in you so fast and so
It's
quickly.
life force. It's like a beating heart.
It really is. And it's so that's why I'm so passionate about them. Like they're healing instruments for whatever your intention is that you're using them for. 100%.
My husband just started drumming like a year ago, and when he drums, I just feel so good. Like it just feels like, yeah, my man's in the house. He's drumming. It's so hot. It's really a great feeling. Yeah.
I love that. So yeah, it's so tribal, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, I feel
It's like
safe.
that.
There's a drum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Maybe
I
I
think
need to do some drumming.
you should. You totally should.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that in past lives I've been around like circles with like a fire in between and
Mhm.
and with women and dancing and singing and calling in the spirits. Like that feels so like an experience that I've had. And I have not in this lifetime other than like, just dancing, but
Ah,
it just, yeah, I love that so much.
you'll
Oh,
have to come
I
with
gotta find
me.
myself a drum circle.
Yes. Yeah. Or go on a sacred sounding journey with me and we'll go sing and drum at sacred
Yes,
spots.
I would love that. I would love
Revisit
that.
ourselves. Yeah.
Okay, two things. What's your favorite sacred spot?
Oh
Ooh.
gosh. The one I'm at. Honestly, I
Which
can't
is
even.
where?
I said the one I'm at. wherever I'm at is my favorite.
Oh,
Oh,
I see.
oh,
Yes,
I
yes.
see. Okay.
Yeah, the one that I'm at. And that, like, I will always go somewhere like, oh, this is my favorite sacred place. And then I'll go somewhere else. And which is why I don't like to go to the same places, because there's so many of them. But I will
Mm.
say that the pilgrimage that I made to the cave of Mary Magdalene this past fall was very special. And that is one that I will go do again, because I want to take other women there. And I'm trying to arrange with the Franciscans who run it to allow us to sing in the cave. So it's quite a thing to be able to do that. But um
Wherever you're
yeah,
at.
Yeah.
Isn't that's,
Just
I
like
love
your
that.
last name. Now, the word now is right
now,
in the middle of your last
Yeah.
name. Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah.
want to also just quick mention for
Hmm.
anybody who's listening, because you said that you did not even start until you were 44,
Oh
really like
yeah.
using this voice. And I think so many of us have been conditioned to believe that we must have it all figured out by a certain age. And if we don't, then it's all downhill and, we've
You're a
lost our time.
failure.
And
Yeah.
I'm 49 and I have a book coming out in February and I feel like I'm just getting started, right?
Absolutely.
So I just want to, reaffirm to anyone who's listening who fears that they've lost their window, absolutely not. In fact, for women, I find that most women that I work with are, in their 40s or beyond, because that's when
Mhm.
they're kind of really just coming back to who they are and remembering that.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Yeah. That's just it's such false beliefs, and it's such BS, and it's in a culture that just worships youth for whatever reason. I don't understand that, because this is like, I'm 52 and I'm just getting started. That's how I feel. Like, I'm
Yeah.
52 and my life is just getting started and stepping into this total feeling of freedom to do whatever I want, giving no craps about what anybody
Oh,
thinks about what I'm doing, right? There's this freedom of just knowing, like, no one cares. No one cares.
Yes.
Do it anyway. And if they are judging you, it's just because it's something in them
Yeah.
that's jealous and insecure, right? So, I mean, just this year, the last 6 months, I've been learning how to make electronic dance music. I learned how to use Pro Logic and Ableton Live, and I've been making electronic dance music and meditation music.
Oh my
oh my
God, I
gosh.
love
Too
that.
old. Never too old to learn something. That's absurd. And you know that one of my favorite sayings is, a master is a student who never stops learning. So
Yes.
if you're young, you're not in mastery unless you've been doing something your whole entire life, like gymnasts or ice skaters, or usually athletes can be in mastery in their youth, but most people, not so much.
You're
Beautiful.
so youthful though, like because you're so present and because of maybe the trials and tribulations you've gone through like it's like you've risen like the phoenix and you seem like you're rebirthed and you just seem like this fountain of youth
Aw,
to
thank you.
me, your energy.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that's because I am very present. I am very present. Going back to, like, where's your favorite sacred site, like the one that I'm at, and I'm very present. And when my husband and I first met, like, whatever I'm doing, I'm all excited and I'm in it. And I would always say, "Oh my gosh, this is my favorite thing." I would always say that to him. And so he goes to me, he goes, when we're dating for about 4 months, he goes, "I used to think in the beginning of our relationship, I was questioning, like, is she just really shallow? Because how could everything be her favorite thing? That just doesn't make sense." And he's an engineer, right? So it's black or it's white. There's nothing in the middle. And he goes, and then I realized, whatever you're doing is your favorite thing because you're just so there. And I'm like, yes, now you get me. Yes.
That is
Yeah.
such
Oh,
permission. Because I'm always saying, like, this is my favorite podcast episode, this one. And it's like every single one I say that. Yeah.
Because it's
Okay.
the one you're in.
So speaking of the Embodied Woman podcast, what
Mm.
is the embodied woman to Joya?
Wow. Oh my gosh, I love this question. Um, what is the embodied woman to me? For me, it is the full onboarding in this skin suit of my higher self. And by that, I mean becoming, your higher self can't be embodied is the caveat to that, right? Because it's not in a body. So it's making this self, this being, such a clear channel and such a clear vessel that that energy becomes the wind that is the activating life force in my body. It's my life force energy, is that direct connection. And it took me a long time and a lot of work to get to do it. And I want to give some tips to people who've been through a lot of
Please.
trauma.
Yes.
If you've been through a lot of trauma and you've tried to heal your mind through your mindset and your thoughts and your thinking and all of that stuff, right? You can't do it that way, because your unconscious mind is your body. When I had that thought drop into my mind, probably, I think it was 3 years ago now, it was a question. My higher self is my coach, and sometimes we'll say, ask me a question, right? So, and the question was, what if your body is your unconscious mind and it has stored all of the experiences that you don't remember? And so I sought to answer that question, and I found a talk by Dr. Candace Pert on Sounds True, and it's called Your Body is Your Unconscious Mind. I've listened to it probably 7 or 8 times, and I hear something else in it every time. So Dr. Candace Pert wrote Molecules of Emotion. She was actually the scientist who discovered the opiate receptors in the brain. Was a very unbelievably brilliant woman who started going more holistically as she started doing more and more research, right? And so she discovered, and her research, what she was working on was that the brain releases, every time you have an emotional experience or feeling, right? The difference between feelings and emotions. Every time you have a feeling or a thought and you buy into that thought, it releases a chemical explosion within your body that releases 300 different neuropeptides. And they all go and seek out a cell to attach to. And so when I heard that, my vision that I've had with sound healing, and I'm a very visual thinker, I'm a very visual seer. I wouldn't say psychic. I would say clairvoyant, I guess is a good word for it. Just being able to see things. And I saw how sound, when you're using your own voice and when you're using a drum, right, that it repatterns, it goes in, and it's like stepping, if your body is a clear pond that you haven't disturbed in all this time, because all this stuff is just stored there, and now you're bringing in your voice and you're bringing in a drum, it's like taking your foot and stomping it into that pond where everything just goes whoosh, and it comes rushing up to the conscious mind, right? So now we have all this emotion that's come up and that we're aware of, and we have all of these feelings and all of this energy that needs to get out of the body. So you can do that through breath work. You can do that through sounding. You can do that through art. You can do that through running. You can do it through dancing. You can do it through all kinds of ways. But the important thing is to get it out without telling yourself a story about it, so that you just repattern it. So right so then when you're using sound and drumming to repattern yourself, literally, you're thinking about how much you love yourself. You're thinking about how much you honor your body. You're thinking about how much you are grateful for it. You're thinking about feelings of love. And so when you're doing that work, you're literally cymatically repatterning your body with different codes of information, so that your body, now your unconscious mind, becomes a champion and a supporter of what you truly want, instead of becoming a protector and still protecting you from what is no longer there.
Yes. That makes so much sense. And I love how you explained it visually and scientifically. So helpful. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Yeah,
It is. I have to look that woman up, and that's fascinating to me. I love the concept of that your body is your unconscious mind, because things happen in our bodies. I mean, that was one of my major catalysts, was severe low back issues, when I had never had any physical pain in my life. Right. And I find that, the soul sends invitations via trauma, physical illness, ailments, pain, but and so that's why when things like that happen, we don't have a conscious understanding of why is this happening oftentimes. But the way that you just described it is the unconscious mind literally asking us to dig and discover and to heal.
Yeah, and we know that the nervous system doesn't just take in information into the brain and send it through the body. It actually goes the reverse way. Your vagus nerve takes information from your body and sends it to your brain more than it does the other way around. So our body is
Right.
constantly also talking back, which is why we get those emotional triggers, right? And
Mm.
we just react. And you're like, why did I blow up like that at that person who just said nail polish, right? It can be a weird thing that just triggers people. So yeah.
Yes, it's like
Yeah.
this sense memory. It comes straight from the body, or a smell, or a sound. Yeah. You mentioned gene keys in your latest post. Do you want to share about that?
I love the gene keys. So for anybody who doesn't know, I'm sure you know what human design is by now. Your listeners probably all
Really?
know what
Yeah.
human design is. And a lot of them probably know what gene keys are. So it's a spin-off, if you will, from Richard Rudd, who actually studied with Ra Uru Hu and devised his own system, his own download
Hmm.
uh, of how this works. And so I love the gene keys and this is where I love AI, because I finally got the answer to my question, which was, what are the odds of somebody having your exact same gene keys chart? Like, to mathematically compute that, I'm not that smart that way. I'm not mathematical to figure that out, because it would be, you have 11 spheres. Within each sphere, there are 64 combinations, because that's how many gene keys there are. And then within that 64 code, you have one of 6 lines of expression. So it's just crazy how huge it is. And so according to ChatGPT, it's 1 in 64 sextillion. No one has your same gene keys
Yeah.
chart.
Yeah.
Literally no one. Yeah.
Infinite. Yeah. I was going to say
Infinite.
infinite possibility.
It's infinite possibility, because we're
Wow.
all so individual. What I love about them is, and I've been working with them since 2015. So, oh my gosh, 9 years this year. Holy moly.
Wow.
Um, yeah, they tell you your shadow frequency, which the shadow is those unconscious operations. It's how our body and our mind have learned to protect us from dangerous situations, including our own emotions, protecting us from our own feelings, right?
Mm.
So
Hmm.
learning how to work with those shadows, that from those shadows now that tells you what the gift is. So there's a gift in that frequency, and then the potential enlightened state out of that. So it tells you, it's a map of your potentialities and your possibilities and your gifts and your talents and your abilities in this physical vehicle. And I see it as being like, if we're all a computer, that we arrived as a computer, like you would go buy one, and then all the
Hmm.
software gets put into you based on whoever you are and who's using your software, right? So we
Hmm.
get programmed by our parents, of course, but we
Hmm.
can reprogram ourselves when we learn what that originating code is and work with it. And so I've created not only doing gene keys readings for people, but also drumming your gene keys, because your whole key sequence is a drum sequence, and musical astrology to go with it. So I take
What is musical
What?
astrology?
So much.
What the fuck is that? I want to know about that.
musical astrology. Yes. So every chart, every placement in your planet has a frequency, and that frequency is a musical note. And so I can take that and make a composition out of your musical astrology. So I create them for people that are 5 minutes long. It's a 5-minute meditation based on your musical astrology. And I do it totally intuitively. It's not even, this is why
You're channeling it.
I'm channeling it. And this is why I learned how to make electronic music, because I do it with electronic music. So I can add these layers, and it's very textural. And in fact, I was just writing an Instagram post because I realized that, I'm like, oh, I make music. I create electronic music the same way that I paint, or the same way that I do anything, which is very layered and very in the flow, very intuitive, and it has a lot of depth. So you want to look and look again, or listen and listen again, and you hear something else. So I just love, love, love creating them. Yeah, it's fun.
I
That's
want that.
incredible. That's incredible. I want to talk about the word wayshowers.
Okay.
This is a word that you have chosen as part of what you offer. What is your relationship to that word? Why is that so important to you? What does that mean?
Okay, so I joined this mastermind group that was quite an investment. And the reason that I joined it was to help me get clarity, because I am so creative and such a creative channel. And I'm like, I don't know what I do. I help people heal. I don't know how to, but then that's like, you serve everyone, you serve no one kind of thing. And so I went to this mastermind and I was like, okay, you guys, I'm sitting in front of this group of women who are very successful in their businesses. And I'm like, I need to know who I serve. What's my thing? And they're like, what are you talking about? Like they didn't get it. And
All
I
right,
was like,
wait, are you a manifesting generator?
I am.
I
Yeah,
knew it.
okay.
I
Yeah.
knew it. You sound like Siri.
We could see that. We could see that.
Yes,
Okay.
a 4-6 manifesting generator. Like I
Okay.
can do anything. And so I went to Mexico and I'm like, I'm just not going to think about this anymore. I'm like, I don't know who I serve. It'll come to me. And so I'm like, Spirit, just tell me, like, who is it? Who am I calling in? And so I'm swimming in the ocean in Mexico and I hear this little voice as I dive under a wave, it says, you're a wayshower. And I'm like, what's a wayshower? So I like got out of told my husband, I'm like, I need to go up to our room. I'll be back. So I'm like ran to the room and Googled it to look it up. I'm like, what does this mean? Is this such a thing? And I found some great definitions and it blew me away. And it was, I'm like, this is the story of my life. It's a person who's overcome tremendous adversity in their life, almost as if it were an assignment, because they are lights and guides. And the only reason that you overcome it is to be able to guide other people. It's not like the Wayshowers don't heal for their own self-service. They heal to be able to help humanity. And that's like a real drive in the heart of a Wayshower, is that wanting to help and heal humanity. There are people who are deeply spiritually connected. It could be in a sudden spiritual awakening or having been spiritual throughout their whole life and just having a connection to something beyond the small self. And they really feel a fierce individuality. It's a driving force. And, when I tell people like about Mary Magdalene and being able to, I'm not going to say channel, but I guess it is channeling only through writing, automatic writings. She might be the wise voice that drops in. I don't know. But I'm like, she's not like this angelic. I'm like, she's the queen of the Wayshowers because she showed up. She stays in her integrity. She's courageous. She's bold. She's brave. She left where she was and went to the south of France and continued teaching for 30 more years as a woman, being a teacher and a mystic. And I'm like, so Wayshowers, I feel like, are less angels, less angelic, and they're way more Joan of Arc. Like it's just
I
kind
was
of
just thinking Joan of Arc.
the sword. Yeah, it's like the sword, and then the sword in one hand and your healing instrument in the other, whatever it is that you use, whatever your gift and talent and ability is for helping and leading and awakening others.
Do you know Kathleen
love that.
McGowan?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I gotta connect you guys.
Okay, hey.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I
so
love that.
tools you've talked about. Are there any others that you didn't mention? I think you mentioned a lot.
I mentioned a lot. I gave you guys everything I have.
For embodiment.
For
Yeah.
embodiment. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Back for embodiment. Yeah. Well, I use an acronym that I created. It's called
Okay.
SAVED. SAVED is the acronym, and it's sound, art, voice, embodied exercises, whatever that is for you. For me, it's intuitive dance and breath work and drumming. So those are my tools for saved. And any of
love
those
that.
things are embodiment tools. Well, not only are they embodiment tools, and here's the other reason I'm super passionate about them, is that they're embodiment tools, but they're also training tools that train you how to be in the present moment, which is where your intuition is operating. And the more you can stay in the present moment and operational and in touch with your inner guidance system, your intuition, the more you can step into a natural flow state. And for me, being in flow is like, this is the closest we get to the divine in our body, because it's like something else is now driving you. And for me, that's just the most wonderful feeling in the world. And all of those tools are tools and practices that get you there.
Absolutely. I think that's why I feel such a sense of freedom when I'm dancing, because it brings me into the present moment like nothing else. And that is what you're saying, that we are the most connected with the divine in the present moment. And every tool that you just mentioned, breathing, dancing, using your voice, drumming, like those all are bringing you into the now, into the present moment. And that's when we're able to connect. And when you think about it, it's so true. It's like when we're thinking about anything outside of this present moment, that's when we feel the most disconnected from the truth of who we are.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the brain, that's what the brain does, right? That's why we want to train our brain with a mantra or our affirmations and give it something to do. Otherwise, it just trots off into worrying about the future, trots off into what you should have done yesterday instead of being right here now.
Yes.
You know what I struggle with is with my anxiety I've had my whole life. I don't want to call it my anxiety. With anxiety that I've experienced most of my life is at night and when I first wake up because my brain doesn't have an activity.
Mm.
So what would you recommend for that, Joya?
So is that when that's when you experience it the most, you're saying, when you're going to sleep and when you're waking up?
Yeah, I'm yes.
Oh, give it something to do. Yeah. Create some affirmations for yourself. Do a body scan. Wake up in the morning and start doing a body scan meditation where you're just really trying to pay attention and notice every bit of your body. And chances are, before you get to your knees, your brain will wander off and you're like, oh, there it goes. Bring it back to the knees. Keep on doing the body scan. Or affirmations that you have, or putting on your headphones first thing in the morning and listening to a guided meditation or anything like that that immediately gives your mind something constructive to do, rather
Yeah.
than your body going to anxiety.
Yeah, I just find that like when you're trying to sleep or in the middle of the night, and you're also like you're sleeping in someone else's aura if you have a partner, and you're, you know, my husband and I had the same dream the other night.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I said to him, I just dreamt about the Gohanzen this morning. I never dream about the Gohanzen. And he was like, so did I.
Wow.
It was weird.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, it's the Buddhist scroll that we chant to.
Oh, beautiful.
So,
Beautiful.
anyway,
Crazy, crazy, crazy. Oh my God, this conversation has been incredible. I have a question. We like to talk about sex and money.
Sex and money.
God, sex, and money.
Favorite things.
Yeah. So what is an embodied woman's relationship with her sexuality and with money, her finances? That's a big question.
Yeah, right. This is a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would say your relationship with your now, are you asking if they're tied together or as two separate things?
However you feel like answering.
Freestyle.
Freestyle. All right. All right. Well, the sexual center. Your sexual center, ladies. Your vulva looks exactly like your throat. I don't know if you know that, but it does. And so for me, this
Ooh.
is a channel right here of your
Yeah.
manifestation. Your throat, your fifth chakra is your creative center, right? So this is where we're creating from, and it is connected directly to your sexuality. And your sexuality is also your creative expression. So when you can learn how to tune into that feeling of sexuality, right? When I tune in my body right now and I feel that sexual energy and I transmute that from like, oh, I need to go and satisfy this feeling, right? This urge. And I can transmute that into it becomes like this sweet, honey, slow feeling that then like travels through my hips and through my whole body. And it's like it's a creative force energy that I'm like, oh, I'm ready to go now express this with my hands and
Oh, I love it.
so and I feel like the more that I'm attuned to that, right, that's authenticity. That's authentic expression. That's directly tied to my money, because that's how I'm making my money, is my expression, my creative expression. What I'm doing with my hands, what I'm doing with my body is leading to that, to my income, to my
Your juju, yeah.
yeah. And also this is new for me, just in all, what's the word here? Transparency, I'm looking for
Mhm.
this relationship to money. Right? Like it's landed differently. I've heard that a bazillion times, but this year, my goal is to look at my relationship with money and really treat it like a relationship. How much am I paying attention to it? How much am I talking to it? How much am I not caring what it does? How much am I just letting it leak out of my bank account because I'm not paying attention to the membership I no longer pay for, no longer even go to anymore, right? So it's like having this tremendous respect for my relationship that I have with it, treating it like it's a being. And I've actually been thinking of a name for it that I want to call her. So, but I don't know what the name is
Ooh.
yet. It hasn't come in, but I'm like, what if I name my relationship with money? And so when I hop on at the end of the night and I log all of my transactions and I look at all of my money, that I'm speaking to her like, or him, if it's, depends how you want to go. But like, to me, she's a woman. So having like honing my relationship with her and making her my best friend, like, how are you serving me? How am I serving you? And really opening to receive more and more and more abundance. And I'm super passionate about healers and the Wayshowers making a lot of money and becoming millionaires, because good people do good things with money. It's a
Yep.
neutral thing. It's a currency, like electricity, right? It's a currency. It's flowing. And I do good things with my money.
I bet
love
you
that.
do.
I love that so much. I have to tell this really quick story because it speaks to what you were just talking about. Okay. Sex and money. So in my research for my book, I was researching like the waves of feminism. And what I discovered was it wasn't until 1972. Okay. I was born in 1974. It wasn't until 1972 that women were allowed access to birth control without being married. Okay. And it wasn't until 1974, the year I was born, that women were allowed to have bank accounts in their own name and apply for a credit card in their name. Otherwise, before that time, they were only able to access or save money in a bank account that was in their husband's name. Okay. They were only allowed to get birth control if they were married. Okay. And they were only allowed to apply for a credit card, which would give them the freedom to be able to have a mortgage, have some credit. So we were born into this energy, this consciousness, this belief system where our relationship with money and sex was already like in existence, right? So I am discovering for myself the why that I haven't had as healthy, or the relationship that I want to have now. And so now it's like, oh, that makes so much sense, right? That's what my mom, that's the energy that she was born into. That's the energy that my Nana was born into, and so on and so on and so on. So now those of us that are Wayshowers, that are awake, that are conscious, that are having these new revelations, we can consciously, with that information, with that knowledge, with that wisdom, say, ooh, I'm writing a new story. I'm writing a new story that's a more empowered and embodied story, where my relationship to my sexuality and to my financial freedom, independence, is my own, and it is what I want to create. So I just had to share that.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I actually came upon a documentary I want to watch. I wrote it in my little list of documentaries to watch. I found it this morning. It's called Savi, and it's a $ AVVY, and it's about women and the history of women and their relationship to money. Exactly what you were just talking about, Amber. I think you would love it. I'm going to definitely watch it.
Okay.
And it says things along those lines about how many women just have no idea how much money their husbands make, and they don't know. I mean, heck, I remember my ex-mother-in-law didn't even know how to use an ATM card. I'm like, are you kidding me? She could not go get money out of bank because she didn't know how to do it.
Right. Yeah.
What? Yeah. So it's true. And there is a relationship that needs to be healed there. And for me, I know that relationship was neglect. And in doing all of the money mindset work that I've done, I was like, well, what do you do when your money mindset is, I don't need money to be happy, which is true. I don't need money to be happy. But I also know that not having enough money can not let you be happy, because you'll be stressed out all the time trying to make ends meet. So yeah, I've been on both ends of that. And I prefer to not have to stress out about money all the time.
Yes, I prefer that we are all millionaires and that we can continue to use our gifts.
Yes, 100%.
With all the money.
And then we share, right? And in fact, I'm like, I was saying the other day to a girlfriend, I said, I used to volunteer for this nonprofit that I really love and care about a lot. And now I don't have all the time I used to have to volunteer for this nonprofit. So now I get to write them a check. And let me tell you, they'd rather have my money than they would have my time.
Yes. Love it. This is the shift. We're very excited.
Yes, this is the shift. Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Obviously, we can talk to you for a few more hours, but we'll close up for now. Thank you so much. You are such a gift.
Mm.
All of the trauma that you went through is such a gift because it's led you to this incredible way shower that you are, musician, healer, all the things. Amber, do you have any last words you want to share?
No, you just made me emotional. I'm just really, really just like feeling into that. Like
Yeah.
the little girl, the little Joya, all that she went through, and to look at you today, to what you're creating and who you are serving and the
Mm,
way that you're serving, it's just so powerful. It is so powerful. And it is a testament to just the strength of who we are and our souls and our essence and just being a woman, right? It's a testament. You are a testament to having walked through everything you walked through, and you are an inspiration to everyone who hears this and everyone who gets to work with you, to witness you, that you can walk through anything and really find what you're here to do and who you're here to be. And you are living that. You are a living example of that. And I so enjoyed this conversation with you. I just think you are incredible. Thank you for sharing your time with us and all of who you are with us.
Ladies, I'm so grateful to you too, and your hearts and your great questions. And this was such a fun, wonderful, natural, flowing conversation. And thank you for your listeners for listening. I know listening to a long podcast is not always enjoyable, so I hope this one was. And um, I just want to say that I wish they would reframe the word or rephrase it from dark night of the soul, because the soul doesn't have a dark night. The soul is always perfect. The soul is always intact. The soul is always inside of you. It's the dark night of the ego that's dying is really what the issue is when we're going
Wow.
through that. And to let that happen and to cry and to know that you're perfect, you're whole, you're divinely created. There's nobody else like you. You deserve to show up and express your version of magic in the world, and the world needs it.
amen.
Yay! So
Oh,
good. So
so
good.
good. All right, Joya, we're going to keep talking and close up and share our aha moments. Thank you so much.
We'll share all of your information in the show notes where they can find you and all the goodies.
Yes,
So
Vibologie.com, at Vibologie on Instagram.
yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really, really, really thoroughly enjoyed this with all of my heart and soul. It was wonderful.
So did we.
We
So
did
did we.
too.
All right. Have
Thank
a
you.
beautiful day,
You
ladies.
too.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
That
Oh,
was like an energy upgrade for me. Her energy is like bing.
I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. Yeah. It's so funny. The other day with Julia, I felt like so quiet. And then today I kept like wanting to, everything was touching me so deeply that I felt like so inspired to, jump in. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I had so many thoughts and it was just I think her energy and the way that she talks invites that.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
it was just like a lot of men, like firing off.
Yeah.
It's probably has to do with the way that our auras interact with each other.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
she's manifesting generator and whatever her gene keys are, you know?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I got so excited when she was talking about the wayshower and the definition of a wayshower. I just felt so excited to like feel like I'm, that we are a part of that very important, special group of humans.
Yeah. I
Here.
was told that by a breathwork teacher of mine. He's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're a Wayshower," because I had a birthday breathwork session with all my family and my parents and brothers and like all my
Yeah.
closest people. And the breathwork teacher said, "Oh, you're a Wayshower." I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh." That was the first time I heard that. That was like
Really.
a couple years ago. I was like, "Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right."
Yeah. Kelly, and for not Kelly, who's the one that took over the space of Alamy, she said that to me not that long ago. And I was like, oh, thank you. Yeah. But I love what she said, and I resonate with this very, very strongly, that our experiences that we have, challenging experiences, traumatic experiences, are so that we can be of service to
Yeah.
humanity. And
Mhm.
I remember having, I've shared about this before, but a numerology reading done when I was a teenager. And numerology is another modality, right? But my birthday is 11/22. And when she did my reading, it was that I was here to be of service to the masses. And I'm a humanitarian. And so that's what Joya was talking about, like being here to be of service, as a humanitarian, using the experiences that we've had to serve humanity.
Mhm.
And I feel that's why I want to share my story and my experience, because otherwise, like what good is it? What use is it if I've had traumatic or difficult or challenging experiences that I've walked through? If I'm not here to share it, to
Mhm.
give others hope that they can also walk through that, what's the use of having walked through it?
Yeah. Just turning your karma into your dharma. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, that was an honor and a privilege. She's incredible.
she is. Thank you for bringing her on. You've been on fire, Siri, with bringing on some incredible women. Thank you.
Well, Stephanie, Sage, and Joya are, just like I said, women that I've been following for a long time, that
Yeah.
are leaders, are wayshowers in the spiritual space online.
Yeah.
And I'm very honored that they have said yes to us. And I'm very excited for who else is going to say yes. We have some more amazing women lined up, but
We do.
the sky's the limit for opening to all possibilities of who we're going to talk to.
Yeah, and didn't you just told me that in human design that this is technically the new year, so this is like the beginning of all of the new
Yeah.
year that we're walking
Yeah.
into?
Alexandra
Okay.
Cole posted that. So I was
Okay.
like, oh, that makes so much sense. My body feels like this is the new year, not before.
Yeah, my body does too. I'm definitely having some experiences that are endings in
Yeah.
in the old,
Mhm.
um and walking into the new. So that resonates with me as well.
Okay. Last thing I want to say is
Yes.
she really like busted open some new pathways for me.
Yeah.
I,
Hey,
it's gonna, I'm,
have you ever heard of the throat chakra having the same
no,
whatever as the vulva?
I
The
don't, I
same
don't
like
think so. I mean,
patterning?
maybe, but I don't remember that. No,
How incredible is that?
that's cool.
That how we use our voice is directly connected to our vulva.
Well, it makes sense that, rape survivors don't speak for years sometimes, right?
Right.
Right?
Right.
It
Yes.
shuts them down in their voice.
Yes.
But
Well,
she
yes,
didn't have that.
she did not have that.
She didn't
She
have
used
that.
her voice.
She had the other, she had the voice,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
not common.
Right. Right. But that makes sense. Like why after I dance and like tune into my sexuality and my sensuality, that I feel more empowered to use my voice.
Yeah, of course.
So I love that.
Makes so much sense.
Gosh, I learned a lot today.
Me too. All right.
Oh, okay.
Well, thank you
Thank
guys for
you.
listening, for getting through all of these beautiful moments with us. And we invite you to be in your now moment.
Yes. Be in the now. Be in the now.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.